Dave and Amy Freeman will be taking off in their canoe for a year in the Boundary Waters. It's called the event is called Year in the Boundary Waters. This is not new to people like Dave and Amy. They've spent many months crossing Canada by canoe and kayak and dog sled. Now they're going to spend 365 days in the Boundary Waters wilderness, moving by canoe in the fall, dog sled in the winter, back to canoe all next spring and summer. They'll be there for a whole year. They'll be sending out tweets and social media every day from wherever they are in the Boundary Waters. And we've got a sportsman's organization that's as concerned as the paddlers are, because this is a big fishing area, and it's, fishermen and hunters enjoy the forest as much as paddlers do. Especially this time of the year, we get into hunting season, but fishing year-round in the Mountain Waters is very important. So that's what the whole reason to do this is that copper nickel mines, sulfide ore mines, as they're known, hard rock mining, and we've been reminded of this many times recently, is toxic. It gets it's almost impossible to have a sulfide ore mine and not have pollution. In fact, I think it is impossible. It may take a few years, but pollution from mining is the number one most toxic industry in America. And here we have the Boundary Waters wilderness, America's most popular wilderness. 250,000 people a year come to the Boundary Waters in some form or other, day trips. 79,000 wilderness paddlers every summer. So there's no wilderness that's more popular in the United States. It's 1 million acres. It's the largest wilderness east of the Rockies and north of the Everglades. It was founded in 1964 with the original Wilderness Act. There was 10 wilderness areas in that first Wilderness Act. Beautiful Freeman helped write that act. He was a Minnesota senator. Founded, wanted to make sure that the Boundary Waters was part of that act. And it just doesn't make any sense to put the world's most toxic industry next to what is really the world's most popular wilderness area.
Be sure to check bentgate.com for our full product selection as well as updates on all these events.
This episode of the Adventure Sports Podcast is brought to you by 180tac.com. 180tac manufactures premier backpacking and emergency products. Whether you need a backpacking stove for your bike trip down in the creek, we have the tools you need. Visit www.180tack.com.
Gotta go Collinsville first to get there.
gushed down
We
the
won't let that
Endless River
happen.
Valley. It was a prized trout stream before. It was a place of natural beauty, almost beyond compare. And now it's just been assaulted in this horrific way. We've got to be able to be responsible as citizens of the planet. We've got to be responsible for how we use its resources. And there are some places that are just national treasures. They should never be threatened by such a thing as what you're describing.
Yes, thank you for making that point. The Endless River disaster is only one of many. A year ago, August 4th, 2014, there was a breach in a tailings basin in British Columbia that sent millions of gallons of tainted water down one of the British Columbia's most prized fishing rivers, and at what's called the Mount Poly mine. It was supposed to be an example of what can be, how mining for sulfide ore can be done right. Here it is, destroying one of the beautiful, pristine fishing streams of British Columbia and a salmon hatchery at the end. So, these things happen on a regular basis. It happened in Mexico in September last year. Things that you don't hear about around the world are disastrous. Mining of this type really should be done in desert areas where it has been done. Places where there's not water resource that can be polluted so easily. The Pebble Mine in Alaska is another example. One of the worst places to talk about sulfide ore mining. The Boundary Waters, the New Area Wilderness, and the headwaters of beautiful globe where you could consider that kind of toxic industry. Unfortunately, those minerals exist in these places, and the best thing to do with them is to leave them in the earth where they're safe and not exposed to oxygen and water, where they're 2,700 feet down in the earth where they've been for 1.8 billion years, and they can stay there safely. And, people talk about mining as having new technology. Well, there's no technology new about mining that doesn't involve moving tons and tons, millions of tons of rock. There's no way to take a laser and extract these minerals. You dig in the ground and you pull out rock and you bring it to the surface and you expose it to the atmosphere, and you produce acid mine drainage that goes into the watershed around it with the heavy metals, as you experience in the Endless River. We don't want that to happen to the Boundary Waters. We'd be out of business. From a business standpoint, it's horrible. But as an ecologist, a person who loves the wilderness as it is, we need to keep this place pristine. Water that you can drink out of your cup as you paddle through these lakes, which you literally can do, and what we do all the time, dip a water bottle into the lake and drink it. So, few places like that left in the world, Curtis, and we appreciate it the way it is. Even though we've been here for 40 years, we still appreciate it.
No, you bet. Well, thank you for the efforts that you're making.
Like yours, and never have to go out and start chopping wood in the woods or start searching the shorelines for wood. So really a super efficient way to use all the natural environment to save having to carry a big bottle of gas.
And the other thing about it is, especially the white gas stoves, leaky O-rings, spills. People that have tried to fill up a stove. Never fails, it overflows. You overfill it, the funnel falls out, or maybe you don't even have a funnel. That kind of toxic white gas does not belong in the Boundary Waters, as far as I'm concerned. So,
we've got a lot of natural fuel just sitting there ready to use. And, unless there's a fire ban, that's the only way my wife and I cook. And it just makes so much sense and saves weight. Weight's critical. Weight, the fuel is there, ready to be used. You just need to gather it up a little bit. With a stove like yours, you can do that almost without moving, just sitting in the middle of the campsite. It's all right around you.
Yep, that's the way I do it. Well, Steve, thank you very much for your time today. It's been very enjoyable learning more about canoeing, and I learned a ton. And like I've said, I grew up on a canoeing river, and I've done a lot of canoeing, but you have taught me an awful lot about canoeing and also about Boundary Waters. And so thank you for your time.
Well, I sure appreciate you calling, and we got to get you out here sometime, Curtis, with your family, because this is about as family friendly as any wilderness area in the world.
Well, we'd love to do it. My son almost made it there this fall, but it didn't work out. He was going to be in the Boundary Waters this fall, and I was excited to hear from him the report, but we'll have to get the whole family out there.
Let's do it. Thank you so much.
You bet. You take care. And for all of our listeners, thank you very much for your time today. And until the next episode, do get out there and have some fun.
trying some new tricks and whatnot, and he tries a barrel roll, and it somehow corks him straight down hard enough that he put his head through the net, and it pulled his helmet off, which then flew around to the top net, back down through, and pretty much exploded a helmet through the rock. And I run out there, I see his helmet disappear, and I had to shove him off to the side and jump off myself and get out of the column before it was like, hey, I'm going to eat plastic. At that point, that's pretty much when it goes wrong.
Crossing the Youghiogheny River. Collinsville Memorial Bridge.
Adventure Sports Podcast, episode 88, Indoor Skydiving with Dave McMahon.
The bottom of the Lower Yough, I think.
This is
Right
the
bottom,
Adventure
yeah.
Sports Podcast, brought to you by 180 TAC. Get out there and have some fun.
Maybe it's 201 that I take over and not. Yeah, it's because toward Fallen Waters. Yeah, that's also 711 North.
Welcome back to another episode of the Adventure Sports Podcast. This is Travis. With me today is Dave McMahon. Dave discovered indoor skydiving back in... Dave, welcome to the show. Hey, great to be here. Yeah, good to have you. So, indoor skydiving, a lot of people might think, why would I want to fly above a giant fan? But from what I've seen, it looks to be an absolute blast. It is, and totally pun intended for that, right? So, it is. It's basically a big padded room with a trampoline in the middle that has a column of air about 12 feet wide. It is a big fan below you. It's a DC 3 prop hooked to a large motor, 1,000 horsepower motor, that we simulate the free fall aspect of skydiving without the risk. So you don't have to worry about the parachute, you don't got to worry too much about the ground. It's all soft in there, and you know you're in there with an instructor too, so you got a little helping hand while you're in there. That's cool. So how long does it take one to pick this up if they've never skydived before, or maybe even if they have jumped out of a plane? You know, they're going to step in there for the first time. What's it like? We get all of it. We get the experienced skydiver to the I'm too scared to skydive and never would. We fit all of those categories, you know, and all ages. And so
It depends on the person as far as, you know, how long does it take? Well, how long did it take you to learn how to ride a bike? You know, it's a center of gravity thing. It's one of those things, like, I always compare it to a bicycle in the way that you have that click moment, and then all of a sudden you can do it for the rest of your life. You're like, oh, okay, I was trying way too hard. I gotta chill out a little bit, and all of a sudden the bike is the easiest thing ever. Same thing in here. It's that once you have that click moment, that little aha moment, it just gets cooler and cooler, because just like the bike, you're like, ooh, I'm gonna jump the curve now. You know, the first time is pretty much that whole, okay, go down the street and don't get a fucking car. It's like, hey, stay over the air column.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So I want to dig into that a little bit more about what people experience. But before we get there, let's dig into you a little bit. How did you get involved in this?
Well, you know, I came here as a kid in, I think, 83 with my brother, who he got to go to a birthday party here, and I was a little kid, and I didn't get to fly, but, you know, it was always like the coolest thing ever. And then fast forward to Thanksgiving in '97. Me and my brother were at a, you know, one of those Thanksgiving dinners that was like, this is terrible, and nobody's going to notice if we disappear. And so I remembered I saw something that said this place, you know, was open again, because it reopened in '95, and I said, hey man, let's go try that indoor skydiving place out. Came down here, flew on Thanksgiving Day, because we're open pretty much every day. And since then, I came back, kept flying. I brought a couple friends with me who, they got jobs before me, a couple guys I was in a band with, and said, man, I want the job, I took you there. You know, so I just kept coming and flying and bugging them until they said, okay, fine, you can be an instructor. And from there, you know, I was hooked from that first flight. It really is one of the coolest sensations, let alone, you know, to simulate a free fall in a skydive without having to go and hop on a plane and spend that kind of cash. It's just awesome, especially when you're an 18-year-old kid with no money.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a lot cheaper option, and you really can't fall to your death.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is definitely a much more economical option to get that part of the sensation, for sure. And yeah, the whole to the death, I mean, that doesn't really, the odds on that are really small anyway. Skydiving is a super awesome sport. It is one of the most, or the coolest I did a skydiving. So when I got up out of the plane, it was, you know, natural. Body position was natural, and it was, I could fly right away, as opposed to most people, it's still fighting that muscle memory. And I call it, you look like a cat in the bathroom.
Yeah, that's probably a good analogy. That's pretty funny. So you have done both skydiving, indoor skydiving. How would you compare the two of them? Now that you've done indoor, how does it feel jumping out of a plane?
Well, I mean, to fly inside a tunnel is actually, sometimes it's a little harder than skydiving, because you only have a 12-foot sky, or however big the column is that you're flying on, as opposed to the whole sky. So if you mess up, you go either off the column or over the wall. In the sky, it's like flying in a football field, as opposed to flying in a coke bottle. Right. You know, you have a little more freedom to mess up. You learn to be a lot more tight with your moves, and just a lot more, basically, you get to hone in on your skills, because you have a wall as reference right there. So if you move an inch, you know. If you're in a free fall, you kind of sometimes don't know that you're kind of falling at an angle, as opposed to here, you're forced to fall straight down. And you don't drop in here. We start you from the ground up. Everybody thinks, well, how far are you going to drop me in from? No, it's not like that. You're actually going to start laying down on your belly at first on the trampoline, and then we slowly raise you up, and then we'll kind of just jump in from the sides from there on. So in here, there's no real fall here. And in skydiving, there's not either. When you leave a plane, you're going 100 miles an hour this way. So when you leave the plane, you're already moving. So everybody thinks you're going to get that drop sensation, but you don't. You're going 100 miles an hour falling this way at first, and then you start to go down. So in here, it's the same thing. You have no drop sensation. It's strictly the free fall feeling and the lifting of air all around.
That's cool. Yeah, the only thing I've jumped off of, or any jumping I've done, is bungee jumping. I still haven't skydived myself either.
Yeah, bungee jumping is, to me, that freaks me out. I'd rather jump out of a plane any day, because I don't want to see the ground right up at my face.
Coming too darn fast.
The airplane, the ground doesn't move. It stays there. And when the ground does start to move a little bit, it's time to pull your canopy. That's about 5,000 feet. It's like, okay, we're getting closer here. All right.
So why would you encourage people to come down and try indoor skydiving?
Well, it's, one, the coolest toy in Las Vegas. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff to do in Vegas, but, you know, we're the only indoor skydiving facility. It is something that not every city has, so it's something you really want to take advantage of while you're here. It makes a Las Vegas experience just even more above and beyond. Because everybody goes to
It's just a big
go to
playground for
and
adults.
they're great. They're
Like Disney
amazing.
World
It's
for
a beautiful
adults.
setup of facilities here. But, you know, when you come and you can fly, you're like, what would you do in
Except for the
Vegas?
fact that it's a
People
good
will
airport to fly in to
forget
go
some
to
of the
someplace
restaurants
else that I
but they'll
really
never
want to go
forget
sometimes.
the flying part. And it's, you know, it's accessible to all
Snoko
ages,
honey bear.
right? Especially in this town where people are like, well, what are we going to do with the kid?
Honey bear.
You're that thing, you know. It's an all ages thing, but it's also a pretty extreme thing. You can go in there and do some pretty crazy stuff. We do backflips to the wall and back off and up to the tops. Bat hangs from the net and all kinds of cool stuff. So everything from the adrenaline junkie to the mom with the kids, it's something that they can all experience. And we all day I deal out of fun. People leave here giggling and smiling all day. I love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with visiting the largest fan in the city when you're in Smoking Hut, Las Vegas.
This might already be going up.
It's fun. It's the coolest toy ever.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about kids. You brought that up. Is there, obviously you're not going to throw a baby in there. What is the youngest that kids can fly? How do they
toward the
take
south, and Laurel Ridge gets higher towards the north.
They go in there to have fun. They
Mountains are
don't
kind of
go in there to
like
be good at it. You know?
going opposite. Chestnut Ridge is long and skinny,
Yes,
and
kids are
Laurel
just like,
Ridge is narrow, I don't know, shorter and fat. It's just kind of
40
funny how
pounds is
balanced
what we
they
say
are.
is our minimum weight, which is around a 4 or 5 year old. But I took my daughter in there on her second birthday. You know, she had been around it since the womb, knew the hum of the motor, knew the sound. It wasn't weird. She'd be like, her whole life had seen Dad flying around this room. So it wasn't something that freaked her out. We'll take pretty much as young as we'll go. But 40 pounds is that age of, you know, cognitive understanding of what they're doing. The hand signals they'll remember. They don't get freaked out as much. The one thing that we do have is height and weight maximums. That's kind of what we do always filter our flyers with. Is, you know, you have to be somewhat in shape.
There's a certain buoyancy required.
Well, sort of. It's more of a comfort, a quality of flight thing. Like if the heavier you are with the less height you have, the bigger and baggier suit I would have to put on you, and it's going to flap too much. You don't want that. So there's kind of a, you know, there's different height and weight maxes. It's different for men and women too, because we hold our weights in different areas. But the other thing we kind of always have to look for is the neck, back, shoulder injuries. If you have a bad neck or back, you shouldn't be flying in a wind tunnel.
It's not a good idea.
And the one thing that a lot of people don't think of is the shoulder injuries. If somebody has a shoulder that dislocates, it's kind of the nail in the coffin for skydiving, indoor skydiving, all that stuff, because of the position you put your arms in is a very vulnerable position to dislocation. And if you've dislocated before, you're pretty much like Pringles, man. Once you pop, you can't stop. That's life.
Once you pop, you can't stop.
Is that your slogan?
That's hilarious. Oh
It makes
my
sense when people hear
gosh.
that. They're like, oh yeah, you're right. Because you'll know that you ever had a buddy whose arm pops out, he throws a football. Oh dude, it's out again. And you just threw a football. You know, so,
Let's go skydiving.
right. Yeah, it's, you know, there's the minimum weight of 40, but the biggest thing that we always want to check for is height and weight maximums, guidelines, and then the neck, back, shoulder injuries. But other than that, it's for everybody.
That's cool. That's cool. So you guys, I've seen you're talking about some of the flipping up to the wall and the more aerobatic maneuvers. You guys there's competitions in this sport. I mean, there are some crazy moves that guys are making. I imagine that takes a long time to get to that level.
Years to master. Absolutely.
Yeah. You guys all make this look easy, but I know I've not done it, but I know darn well it's not.
It's really not. It's not easy at first, and like I said, you know, some people it takes longer than others. Like a bike. How fast did you pick up a bike? How fast did you learn the tricks? And it's a balancing sport for sure, but it is a physical activity, man. Like learning to do that stuff is really exhausting. We actually, my general manager here and my great friend Brad Hess, he actually he was, and it got broken after, but he's the Guinness Book of World Records holder, former Guinness Book of World Records holder, for the most amount of somersaults in 1 minute. He did 53 front flips in 1 minute. Can't touch the ground, sides, anything else. That's nearly 1 a second.
That's tiring.
It's not only exhausting, but your equilibrium, you have to train a long time. I put it as like, imagine the water balloon. And if you ever thrown a water balloon and it kind of stays together, it's cool. But if it does that, that's like the liquid in your head. So when you're throwing front flips, if it gets to that weird wobble, you're going to wobble out. But if you can keep that fluid perfectly going in a circle, so it's an equilibrium thing on top of a physical, strength thing.
Man, that's amazing. So did they catch that on video?
Oh, we had to have multiple angles. We had to have multiple witnesses.
It's all proof.
Yeah, for Guinness
Elevation
we have the plaque on our wall.
2,308
We have a Guinness plaque on our wall from Brad
Yeah,
breaking
that's
the record.
below any of the Laurel.
Wow, I imagine just to do a
signs.
single somersault
Not
in that
much.
thing and not whack against the wall or go too high, go too low. Just a single somersault's got to be tough for this guy to do that many.
It is.
in a minute. That's
It's
insane.
not tough once you learn it, you know, and when you're learning, we control the wind. So we don't just brrr and crank it and hope like you don't stick to the top and tell you to burp like Charlie. It's not like it's very controlled. You're standing in there with an instructor who, the same person that took you to class and was teaching you the basics of body position, hand signals, all that good stuff, safety, and geared you up. It's also the guy standing in there with you. And
Right.
he's able to stay standing on the net because he's vertical, you're horizontal, creating all the surface area, and they keep you over the air, and they hold on to you until you're stable. The more stable you are, the more we let go. But there's also a controller that is controlling the air and only giving you enough air to be exactly within that instructor's reach. The better you do, the more air you get, the more we let go.
Ah, that's interesting. Yeah, I would have thought it was just turn the fan on and everybody just kind of deals with what air they get. So there's somebody there adjusting the throttle the whole
Yeah, our
time.
insurance company would not be cool with just
Cranking it up.
they don't cover that kind of policy. So it is very controlled. I mean, it's like I said, anybody can do it because we tailor each flight to that person. You know, who is the through the class and the gearing you up. It's also, you know, you getting to trust your instructor, but it's also your instructor getting to know you a little bit and kind of knowing what they're going to do in there with you and kind of what kind of physical attributes you have and what.
Right, right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So walk me through a day. Somebody comes in for their first time. What is it they experience from the moment they step through the door?
Well, you're gonna step into the lobby. You're gonna register at the desk. If you haven't already reserved a flight, which is always recommended because we sell out, you would sign in. At that point, the class starts whatever time you had set. We have classes that go every half an hour. So you're in the 2 o'clock class. The instructor's gonna take everybody up. You're gonna go to about a 20-minute training class. That's going to teach you the basics of body position, hand signals, safety procedures. When you go to the pads, you're going to do what's called the tuck and roll because everybody lands in the pads. Then, after that's done, you're going to get all your gear on: helmet, goggles, gloves, earplugs, a suit, shoes. If you don't have any, we got some that you're going to use. We provide all the equipment that's necessary for it. Last but not least, you put that helmet on, and then you go and you're going to get in the tunnel. We take up to 5 people in the tunnel at a time. So 4 people would be standing around the sides while one person is flying for about a minute or so, and then they go into the pads, and then the next person goes, and it's a rotation around the room, just like that. You do about 1-minute rotations, about 3 of those. Whole process is about an hour to an hour and a half. It depends, you know, it's not a big cumbersome thing upon your day. So when people come to town, they're trying to fit in all these activities. You only need about an hour and a half tops to get through this.
Yeah, it sounds about like the right amount of time. So you said the room was about 12 feet, the actual tunnel
It's a
itself?
12-foot column of air, and then about a 2-foot ring around that column of where people are standing in the pads.
Okay, all right. Imagine that helps you get in and out, because if you had the air blowing straight up the tube, you'd have a hard time
Yeah,
getting in and out.
and you know, there's other tunnels that they are wall-to-wall air, and there's what's called an antechamber outside of it. People are sitting in there, and there's no air, and then you just enter right into the stream from the doorway. But ours, being the first one, it's a different set of technology where, yeah, everybody's kind of standing there, and then after you've flown that first time, where I talked about how you start on the belly, the instructor's right there. After that, it comes back around for your second time, and from there on out, you just kind of stand at the edge of the pads and jump straight out into the middle like a belly flop into the center, and the wind catches you, and the instructor assists you in, and you come on in and start flying again from there.
Up in the air like you're
That's cool.
actually
And
falling.
the instructor's hanging on to you to make sure you don't go tumbling off into the distance. They're kind of controlling you at first.
Absolutely, just guiding you over the center of the air and giving you hand signals to try to get your body stable, like bending your legs a little bit more or arching a little bit more. So you gotta let your hips sink down towards the earth. And skydive and everything, you want to arch, and that is, you want to be shaped more like a bowl than you are a plate. You know, you want that air to be able to go around you, but if you're a flat plate, you're going to buff it and flop around. So arching at the hips is what lets that air spill off around the arms and legs.
Okay, cool. And then the clothing that you wear, the helmet, goggles, whatever you wear, is that akin to what you would wear jumping out of a plane, or is it a little bit different just because?
It is a little bit different. The suits that we put on you are baggier than you would wear in a skydive because we need to create a little bit of drag, a little bit of lift. So you would wear much smaller clothing in a skydive. You don't really wear earplugs in a skydive either. Here we have to wear those because it's a big, huge motor, this thing, a fan. But as far as a helmet, goggles, and gloves, things like that, you would wear obviously goggles in a skydive because wind in your eyeballs. That sucks.
Yeah, imagine a bug at 125 miles an hour.
I've taken one. You know what else sucks in a skydive is rain.
close. To
Oh, I bet. I know what it feels like on a motorcycle. I can't imagine skydiving.
Imagine about 140, 150, and you go through a rain cloud. Yeah, it's, you know how that feels. It sucks.
Yes.
At that point, you're like, I'm so glad I wore a full face helmet today.
That's right. It's two of them. So how about a story of your most amazing experience that got you hooked on it?
Well, too many to even pick one, but I hooked on it. What I think was when I first started here, and about a year in, is when free flying started to become a big thing. And free flying and skydiving is when people started flying in what's called a sit fly, and flying on their head, and 2 and 3 guys together at the same time, flying what's called head down. And there was a couple different groups that were doing it. One was called the Flyboys, and these guys were crazy. One of them, there was Omar and all these other cats. A couple of them hosted a couple TV shows later on, and they were doing things in the tunnel that was, at the time was like impossible. And these guys were doing it in the sky and then practicing it in every tunnel they could around the country. And so those guys just turned me into they blew my mind away as far as oh, I'm going to try that. And from there on out, skydiving even changed. And that was around the 98, 99 region that not everybody was flying on their belly the whole time. These guys were going out, leaning on their heads and flying around each other, doing the craziest stunts, and then taking them inside the tunnel and trying them. So that blew my mind and made me go, yep, this is the fun stuff for me. I will be here for a long time. We then, fast forward to other cool stuff where the Nitro Circus guys, we've done some Nitro Circus shoots here. Travis Pastrana is a really good friend of ours. He's family down there, actually. We spend a lot. Travis is here all the time. If he's ever in town, he always comes through and flies. And I've been teaching him to fly since he started. He did that first Grand Canyon jump with Jolene on the back. He ditched the bike and base jump. He came here to learn to fly. And they jumped off the bike. They were like, okay, proper bike. And since then, he's just been family. And so, Nitro Circus did for their show, for their DVD Thrill Builders. We did it with Bam Margera and his boy Novak and all the whole Nitro Circus crew. And it was like athletically inclined bees and pool toys in a wind tunnel. It's the coolest and funnest and craziest time. It's Nitro Circus. You don't get to we're just going to fly. No, it was we're going to see what we can do and not die.
Yeah, enough said, right?
Travis is out of his mind. He's got the highest pain threshold of any human I've ever met in my life. But that stuff like that, where we get to have such a cool toy and something so different, and then some of the most, amazing athletes, let alone craziest, come to play with our toy too. That kind of stuff makes me just love this place.
Oh yeah, that's a blast. I imagine it's got to be addictive.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm still here.
Yeah. Testament to it, right? Let's talk car racks, specifically Yakima and Thule. Chances are, if you're listening to our show, you either have one, want one, or you're going to need a car rack soon. Car racks, whether on the roof or on the back, need a good set of locks to keep your gear locked down to the rack and to your car. Good news, our new sponsor, Z-Lock, has new lock sets for all Thule and Yakima racks at about 1/3 less than anywhere else. These lock cores are sourced from the original manufacturer and include bonus keys. Need replacement keys or cores matched to your current lock code? Z-Lock has replacement options even if you've lost all of your keys and don't know your key number. Check this out. Z-Lock is offering Adventure Sports Podcast listeners an additional 20% off their already low prices plus free shipping. Just enter the code ADVENTURE at checkout and you'll save up to 50% off of retail. Go to zlock.com/adventure. That's ZELOCK.com/adventure and save. On August 1st, 1999, Polly Latovsky left her Colorado home and headed west, traveling over 14,000 miles on foot, becoming the first woman to walk around the world. But it was never an easy road. Every day, Polly struggled with adversity that left her lost and miles off path. The book, 3 Miles Per Hour, The Adventure of One Woman's Walk Around the World, has won 6 national awards and is available on Amazon, Kindle, or her website for a signed copy. Visit www.3mphbook.com. That's www.3mileperhourbook.com. tunnel for you?
You know, there's there's other stuff that happens too. Like say when like Kenny Bartram, one of our Cowboy Kenny, our motocross buddy, he's trying some new tricks and whatnot, and he tries a barrel roll, and it somehow corks him straight down hard enough that he put his head through the net, and it pulled his helmet off, which then flew around through the top net, back down through, and pretty much exploded a helmet through the prop. And I run out there, I see his helmet disappear, and I had to shove him off to the side and jump off myself and get out of the column before it was like, hey, I'm going to eat plastic. At that point, that's pretty much when it goes wrong.
That's hilarious. No major injuries, though.
No,
That's good.
no, it was all good. It exploded up through and stuck at the bottom net, but it was one of those times where you have no ass moment, for sure.
That's hilarious. Let's talk about the competitions. Do you guys hold some of the competitions down there? I've seen some videos of it.
We do in-house competition, and we're actually we've had unofficial competitions for years.
I'm sure. After
well,
hours.
yeah, I mean, we've had others, and we used to still do sometimes. We do what's called King of the Tunnel. You ever played King of the Hill? Do it down on air column. It's awesome. Play King of the.
Now wait, is the goal to be on top or
The goal is to be the only one in the air. So, but there's certain rules to it. You can't just jump out and tackle a guy. It's kind of jump out, square off like you would, and then go. And there's different techniques to stay in the King of the Tunnel, which I can't tell you all of them because that's how I keep these young bucks in line.
Flip over and die.
That's right. I imagine that gives you the leg up.
But we are actually planning a really big in-house competition between our staff members, and it's going to be really cool because we're breaking down into 3 parts. It's going to be best routine, so you have 1 minute to do the coolest stuff you got. Best trick, kind of like slam dunk contest, like you got 1 shot, show me your best dunk. It's going to be the best trick, and then we're going to kind of bring back Brad's Guinness record thing for the most flips in a minute. Can be front or back, but we're going to do, so it's going to be a 3-part competition, so it kind of levels the field. So if one guy's really good at this and the other guy's good at this, it happens. We'll have a couple celebrity judges would come down and do it, maybe Travis and a couple other people to judge the whole thing too.
Really don't see anything.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, some of the stuff that these guys in the competition and what you're talking about in your facility do is mind-boggling. Like I said, you guys make it look easy, but I know it can't be that easy. When you're trying to suspend yourself in a column of air and you make it look simple, I mean, if you think about it, it's all of the forces acting on you to be able to hold yourself in a single position, much less do it in sync with another person. These guys are flying up and they're flying back down and they're doing a flip and they're bouncing off the wall and they're all coming back into the same position at the same time. So it really is
very,
wild.
very, very small, subtle movements to do everything too. It takes very little pressure to change everything going on. So it is a very, very intricate sport. Once you start getting into that stuff, and like you said, doing
I've made up my mind.
Then I shall be alone.
That journey into the desert you've spoken of, you will take it alone.
What else can I do?
Once you said to me that peace and happiness might be found there. You gave me hope. And now,
I'm on the way. I went to ride my bike on the bike trail after work, and now I'm coming home.
Guess what?
What?
Joe DeNardo died.
Yeah, I heard that earlier today at work. It's terrible. He was 87 years old. He was born in 1930.
Yeah, it makes you feel bad.
Yeah, did you hear how he died or anything?
No, I mean, he was so nice,
Yeah.
you know? You remember, of course, what I remember is when he took you down through the studio.
Back in 1991, he would have been 61 years old then. He was on TV. You know, he was on TV in the 60s, but he was actually a meteorologist that was briefing the weather people in the 50s. He wasn't on TV, but he was, you know, a real meteorologist. Those people on TV aren't always meteorologists, so he would tell them, you know, what to say and all that, I guess.
Well, yeah, remember that saying Joe said it would?
Yeah, Joe said everyone remembers that. Even people that aren't from around Pittsburgh remember that. Like the one lady that I work with is from Erie, and she's even heard of that.
Oh, yeah. They talked
about it. It was him and Paul Long. Paul Long did the news and he did the weather, right?
Yeah. And then,
hello?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, they said that they remember this when Paul Long was done and he went out in the garage. He always left his keys in his car, Paul Long.
Yeah.
So Joe DeNardo decided to play a little joke on him and he went out and he moved his car. So, you know, he put it on a different floor.
Yeah.
So Paul Long comes out. He don't know where his car is. He has no idea where his car could be. What happened to his car? And Joe said, you know what? Check downstairs. Maybe you left it downstairs. So Paul Long goes downstairs. Joe DeNardo jumped in his car when he left and moved his car right up in front of where it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And Paul Long looks at it and he goes, I guess I missed it.
Oh, my.
That's all he said. Okay, I guess I missed it.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, that's sad. He was definitely an icon.
That guy, I can't believe he lived that long though. He had a lung taken out like 20 years ago, and from lung cancer from smoking. He was smoking cigarettes when I met him back in 1991, and chain smoking. You know, I mean that's why he in the studio and stuff. People could smoke back then. Yep.
Have to do it with the Blue Township Park, and they named it the street in the park, Joe DeNardo Way.
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, and then the DeNardo was the Bishop Cardinal, the Cardinal's name. But Joe DeNardo, the weatherman, was from Ohio. But the Cardinal DeNardo was from West Virginia. So I mean, not too far from each other. I mean, that part of West Virginia is right next to Ohio.
I think Weirton, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's from Weirton, and the other. Yeah.
You know, I said, Cardinal, was your family from Aliquippa?
Yeah.
No, he said they're from West Virginia.
Weirton's about the nastiest part of West Virginia. It's like stinks like all industrial crap. Every part of West Virginia is better than that. I feel bad for anyone that's from there.
Even Healthy Heights is better,
Oh yeah, because that's in the main part. I'm pretty close to there. I'm down by Ohio Pile, down kind of at the south end of Chestnut Ridge. I'm probably 20 miles from Healthy Heights right now. Yeah, I'm just north of there.
Me and Freddie, we're going to go up. I make spare ribs tonight. They're in the oven.
Yeah, I don't really like spare ribs much. Okay, I don't really like spare ribs much, so I don't even know. I mean, so, okay, that's good.
All right, I'll put them away. I'll put them away. I'll put them in the fridge.
All right. Okay. See you later.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.
West Virginia.
Which helps. Think about that. Surface area and less weight. It's all skinny now. So it is mind-boggling. Like I said, you guys make it look easy, but I know it can't be that easy. You know, when you're trying to suspend yourself.
Pittsburgh from Chestnut Ridge.
and got totally hooked into doing that every year.
And you can see it was a
kept
resolution.
going until I
can see
developed this
Pittsburgh.
reputation for being the guy that was always on the scene when all hell was breaking loose somewhere. And I kept getting phone calls from BBC and CNN and various different news agencies, and documentary filmmakers would call me to interview me for their programs. Next thing I know, I'm getting a tap on the shoulder to start up basically my own TV show about my life. So it's a great day when you have to quit a job that you like to go and do something you're absolutely passionate about.
Yeah, no kidding. What a great story.
It was really amazing. I remember it was a Friday afternoon. I was working late at the studio. I got a phone call. I found it one day and thought, yeah, I forgot to call this guy. He called me up that Friday's evening, and we put together a meeting, and next thing we know, we're pitching the idea to various TV networks, and one of them said yes. Yep, we have your live network here in Canada, and originally the show was only going to be 6 episodes. They came back and said, we want to do the show, but can you do 13 of them instead of 6? I said, okay. Then we did another 13, then we did another 13. We just finished episode number 49 just last month.
Wow, good for you. Well, you make a fantastic host. Your enthusiasm for this kind of work and this lifestyle just leaps out of you as you're watching the TV shows. You do a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate you using the word enthusiasm, because I'm not the most photogenic guy in the world. I'm not the most, I'm not the prettiest. I'm not the richest. I'm not the, I'm just like an average guy. But enthusiasm really goes a long way, and I'm really enthusiastic, and I just love doing this stuff, and I do it even when it's costing me money. I go on expeditions when I'm not filming the TV show, just because I love to do this kind of stuff, and I'm glad that you appreciate that, because I really hope that it does come through. A lot of the places that I go to, like Siberia in the middle of the winter, or going to Timbuktu in the Sahara Desert, these are places that not many people would want to go to themselves, because it's so difficult and dangerous and just such a pain to go to some of these places, but they want to see them. So I take on that burden gleefully. I take on that burden of all the challenge and difficulty and dealing with the politics and permissions and permits and the hardships and the climate and the equipment and documenting all of this so that people can enjoy some of these spots on this wonderful planet that we have that very few people get to see with their own eyes.
Yeah, and it's amazing to watch that stuff and live it through your camera lens. My son absolutely loves watching these shows, and he's got his heart set on being a storm chaser. He's 11 years old now, and he's imagining the vehicle that he's going to build to go intercept tornadoes. And I told him I was going to have you on. He was just enthusiastic. He can't wait to hear the episode. So what would you say to him at 11 years old if he wants to be a storm chaser?
Oh, that is so awesome. The best thing that he can do is just keep reading and studying and learning more and more. And when he gets a little bit older, you're going to hate to hear this, but when he gets a little bit older, I actually work with a tornado chasing tour company. Wow. So we take people from all over the world who don't have experience with chasing storms, and we take them out for 2 weeks at a time across Oklahoma and Kansas and Nebraska, and they get to experience what it's like to live the lifestyle of a real storm chaser for 2 weeks at a time.
Wow, that is cool. I had no idea that existed.
It does. There's a few companies, small companies that do it. The one that I work with is cloud9tours.com, and I've been working with them now for 12 years. And let me tell you, it is just, we have a good time all the time. It's an interesting vacation. The scenery in Kansas is not that interesting. If you like watching a dog run away for 3 days because it's
gosh, that's not good.
The sky is what changes all the time, and when the supercell thunderstorms that form these tornadoes, when they happen, when they go up, some of these storms could be close to twice the height of Mount Everest. You can't fly a jetliner over top of these things. They're so storms, and all that energy, that rotation, is just concentrated on this one spot in a spark field, being ground up by this tornado, and being up close enough to be able to hear it. Oh, it really makes you feel small. It's just so awe-inspiring to see that. And of course, it can be tricky and dangerous, so there's always that thrill element in there as well.
Yeah, I guess if you ever want to be humbled, you just go out there and chase a couple of storms and
Mother Nature
find out what it is.
She'll smack you down without thought, right? If you don't know what you're doing, like I've been doing this for, oh my God, I've lost track of the number of years. I've been a tornado chaser now for 18 years. If you don't know what you're doing, doing, you're either going to A, not see anything because you don't know how to do the proper weather forecast, and you'll be 200 miles away, or you can get yourself into some real serious trouble. I was on the El Reno, Oklahoma tornado a couple of years ago on May 31st, 2013, and this was the world record largest tornado ever witnessed. It was 2.6 miles wide at its widest point.
Yeah.
And it killed two colleagues of mine, three colleagues of mine, actually, that were on the other side of the tornado. We didn't know it at the time, but the thing was so huge that it didn't even look like a tornado. It was just a smudge on the landscape, just on the horizon, this dark mass.
Yeah, I bet.
And it was just ugly and violent. Sometimes they're pretty. You get this beautiful white sidelit tornado, sometimes a rainbow beside it. They can be these wonderful works of nature's art. And sometimes they can be dark and dangerous and just menacing.
Yeah, just an ugly, massive destruction.
Absolutely.
I remember my son telling me about that tornado, 2.5 miles wide. He said, "Dad, the biggest tornado out there they've ever recorded is 2.5 miles wide." I can't even imagine.
Right,
2.5 miles is a long way.
Exactly, and there were some,
This is where the
on the radio
aliens
warning
landed.
some of my storm chaser friends who were south of me because I knew their position, and I knew from where they weren't going to be able to see it as clearly as I could from my position. And I warned them that there was a large tornado headed their way, and they couldn't even see it. They're looking right at the storm, and they couldn't even see it because it was wrapped up in rain and such. They saw a few what looked like funnels, but they were actually these little suction vortices that were orbiting around the larger circulation. It was 2.5 miles wide. So even the professionals, looking at that day, had a hard time understanding what was going on because it was just so incredibly huge.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I grew up in New England, and out there, as you know, it's on that side of the country, the continent for that matter, it's so hilly and there's trees everywhere, so you don't really get to see the storms approaching. You don't see the storm until it's pretty much overhead. And when I moved out to Colorado, the most fascinating thing to me was watching the electrical storms out on the horizon and watching them come in for hours on end, and where I was, there's no issues, but you're just watching this thing approach. It was just the most fascinating thing to sit there and watch that.
Yeah, and people don't think that Colorado gets tornadoes because they call it, Rocky Mountains is what they think. But the eastern third of Colorado is extremely flat, and it's definitely part of Tornado Alley. I spent a lot of time in places like Sterling and Trinidad and all these places where they get quite a few tornadoes. One of the best tornadoes I've ever seen was in southeastern Colorado.
Yeah, that's no doubt. I live in Boulder County, and just to the north of us. In fact, I was out on my motorcycle that night. This was only a few months back, and got caught out when a tornado hit, and it actually took out some houses and whatnot. But it was right up against the foothills, which I've never seen before. Usually, they have to be out on the east side of the interstate of I-25 to be anything that makes damage. And this thing came right up against the foothills, and it was really a sight to see out there, being that close to the mountains like that.
Well, there was one that was reported some 12,000 feet up the side of Pikes Peak a couple of years ago.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was surprising.
I've not heard of that.
Can form. Yeah. That's why I find it so fascinating. It's so interesting because they're literally just these whirlpools of water vapor that come and go due to certain balance. It's very personally rewarding when we're successful at doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit more about volcanoes. Now, I alluded to your enthusiasm. Now, I have to mention, you have so much enthusiasm about this stuff, and specifically volcanoes, that you chose to get married on one?
Yeah, absolutely. Not just married on a volcano, but one that was actively exploding. That was an interesting marriage proposal.
Yeah, I'll bet.
It was her birthday, and we went to our favorite restaurant, and as dessert came, I got down on one knee, and of course, we have TV cameras rolling. I lied to her, told her that the TV cameras were there because the producers wanted just a backstory on us, just for the show. So I didn't tell her that she didn't know that I was about to propose. So get down on one knee, and I asked her if she wanted to get married, and she said yes. We've been together for 9 years at that point, so we figured it was time.
Wow.
She was surprised though. And then, of course, to sweeten the pot, I proposed to her that we get married on the crater's edge, on a beautiful tropical South Pacific island. So now, of course, her ears have perked up, and she's even more interested. And then I sort of sneak in there. How about on the crater's edge of an exploding volcano? And she actually said yes to the volcano part of the question faster than she did to the will you marry me part of the question. And then 6 months later, we find ourselves flying out to the other side of the planet to a small island nation called Vanuatu. I've been there numerous times now. It's full of volcanoes. And there's one in particular called 100 Years.
Okay.
So it's very reliable, and that's why I chose that one. I know it's going to keep erupting, and there's no chance that it's going to stop because it always erupts. And it's relatively small, so it's easy to climb. So there we are. I've got my tuxedo on. She's got her wedding dress on. We're climbing the side. I'm feeling very much like James Bond at this moment in a tuxedo on the side of an exploding volcano. And then we had the ceremony right there on the crater's edge. We filmed the whole thing. There were the locals performing.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, that paints a fantastic picture.
And 2 days before the ceremony, I actually rappelled 60 meters down inside the volcano and had to dodge pieces of lava that were flying through the air over my head.
Well, I would say that's adventure.
That's adventure. Yes, don't try this at home, folks. Most filled with awe, like jaw-dropping awe, was on a caving expedition that I did a few years ago in Mexico. It was a place called Nica, and it was only recently discovered. There's a silver mine in north central Mexico, and there were miners that were 900 feet underground, and they accidentally broke into a chamber. This chamber was about the size of a basketball court, and it was filled with the largest crystals that anyone has ever seen. These white selenite gypsum crystals. Some of them were 30 feet long and weigh 55 tons.
Wow.
Totally like something out of a science fiction movie, like Superman's Solitude.
Oh, crystals are neat.
And I just Google Nica, N-A-I-C-A, and you will be blown away by this place. And so I had the opportunity to go there. It's very tightly controlled. It took 2 years to get permission to go there for 1 day. And the environment inside the cave is as deadly as the cave is beautiful. The air temperature inside is about 126 degrees Fahrenheit with almost 100% humidity.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So as soon as you walk inside the cave, the humidity hits you in the face like a sledgehammer. And you literally start dying because your body cannot shed your internal heat because the air is hotter than your skin. Doesn't function. So you're basically about to get heat stroke. Without any kind of special clothing, you can survive inside for 15 or 20 minutes.
That's it.
We had special ice-filled suits with a special backpack filled with ice canisters.
Holy crap.
That went up through a hose to a fighter pilot style mask that allowed me to breathe chilled air, then blew sort of chilled air onto my eyes to keep my eyes from getting scorched.
Okay.
Yeah. And even with all this gear, I could still only go inside for about 35 to 40 minutes at a time before all the ice melted. And then we'd have to leave, take everything off, put them into freezers. Down in the middle of the open air, down to the very center of the pit, and was able to gather samples. And as I was digging in the ground to gather the samples, fire was coming out of the hole that I was digging. It was literally like I describe it as being like standing in the middle of a coliseum of fire. And I only had 15 minutes worth of air. So I'm doing all this stuff as quickly as I can. I've got the special temperature probe. I'm taking temperature readings. I'm shooting video. I'm gathering samples. My air quality alarm starts going off. A few minutes later, my low air on my tank alarm starts going off. So all these alarms are going off, and it's like, okay, it's time to go. I don't want to get trapped down here. And I gave the signal to my crew up top to haul DNA database. So we actually were able to find life in a place that we would not expect. It was so hellish and just so inhospitable down there.
Wow, that's cool.
And
mission success.
yeah, absolutely. And to put things in perspective, 12 people have stood on the surface of the moon. Only one person has been to the bottom of that crater.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Man, that's a claim to fame right there.
Yeah, I was very proud of that. And it just took so much effort, and it was one of the most difficult things I've ever done from a political standpoint, from an organizational standpoint. And I tell you, when you're standing on the edge of that thing, there's so much heat coming off of it. It's so intimidating. And then to just step off into the void and put all of your weight on that rope, that takes a lot of trust.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, and knowing that no one has ever done it before, so there's no precedent. We didn't know how hot it was at the bottom. We didn't know what kind of gas there was. We didn't know all these things that I might encounter down there because no one had ever done it before. It was a truly unique environment.
The West Greensburg.
So would that rank as the coolest place you visited or the scariest?
Certainly the scariest. Certainly the scariest. It's not the scariest. It's not the most frightened I've ever been. But fear and I have an interesting relationship. I respect fear. I'm not without fear. People say to me frequently, "Oh, you must be totally fearless." And I answer them honestly, no. I embrace fear because if I don't have fear, that's when I make mistakes. Right. If I experience fear, that means
was easy to do in Italy, and really I believe that this is the best place, and I didn't think the video would go as well, but was everywhere on the news, and still people ask me, oh, you've done that video high fashion, so I guess people like it. It's good for people that also don't do skydiving or base jumping, for just anybody from an old person to a kid. Yeah, it was really neat to watch that. You guys were just casually walking up to the edge and throwing yourself over. You're leaping over, stepping over. It wasn't like a typical jump where you're running off the platform and take a nice level dive. I mean, it was very casual. That's the only way I can explain it. You have to go see the video, but there you are in high heels and dressed up, all of you, and you're just tumbling off of this cliff and going down. It was very cool. The idea was to make a little runway off a cliff in a base jump. Basically. So what other projects are you involved in now? What are you working on? Right now I have different ideas. I cannot tell you anything about them. I have a list of animals that I want to go to swim with, and then I have other projects about flying, like there are few places in the world that I really want to go there and fly over because they are beautiful, and I don't know yet which one is gonna be the first one. In those days I'm here in my house so I can work on new ideas. Everything is gonna be with some friends. Because, it's also cool to be not just the one who is flying in the video, kind of like what I did for high fashion. So I hope I will get something with all the other base jumpers together.
I'm hoping to do next. They are in Latin America. That's the only things I can say.
Okay, fair enough. If somebody out there is currently a skydiver, but has never put on a wingsuit, what words of encouragement would you have for them to go ahead and give that a try?